If you don't trust yourself right now, come here. I want to hold your hand while I say this. Bitch, it is time for you to stop breaking the promises that you make to yourself, because one of the biggest reasons why you are feeling the frustration and unhappiness in your life right now is because you don't have a relationship with yourself where trust and honesty exists. If you are a woman who goes to bed nearly every Sunday night of your life telling yourself, this is going to be my week. This is going to be the week that I finally get my shit together. This is going to be the week that I finally eat healthy. This is going to be the week that I finally meal prep and get to the gym and drink my water and get a good night's sleep and do the mindset work and meditate and all of the things. If you keep saying this is going to be my week, but week after week after week after week, you continue to let yourself down and you find yourself going to bed on Sunday nights feeling frustrated and disappointed and oftentimes even disgusted with yourself, it is because there is no self-trust in the relationship that you have with yourself. And that is a problem. You will never live the life that you want to live if you are not at peace within yourself. You can achieve all of the amazing things around you. I know because I have achieved every single thing that I have wanted in my life, but my life was not happy and fulfilling and peaceful until I got right with myself here and here. And that required me to learn how to be a woman who rebuilt the trust that I had within myself by keeping the promises and commitments that I made to me, not just to everyone else around me, but most importantly to myself. And if this resonates with you, inside of today's video, I'm going to teach you exactly how to rebuild the self-trust that you have broken because you haven't been keeping the promises that you make to yourself. Before we go any further, there are a couple of things that you should know. My name is Jessica, and I am a chronic quitter. At least I used to be. I have quit on literally every single thing that I have started. Weight loss journeys, businesses, jobs. I dropped out of college 7 times. You know, it cost me $35,000 to get an associate's degree from community college because every single semester I took out the max in student loans, went to school for 1 semester and then took a semester off and then went back and did the same thing for 7 years before I finally graduated with an associate's degree in criminal justice that clearly I'm using today, aren't I? But I really, truly damaged the relationship that I had with myself. And there was a point in my life where I had zero trust for myself because every time I said I was going to do something, guess what I did? I started, but then I quit. I was in a massive habit of abandoning every single thing that I wanted, and that included myself. I abandoned myself over and over and over and over again. And there came a point where I started to work on myself. And you know what? I was like, I really want my life to be different. I really want to achieve the things that I want. And so then I started achieving the things that I want. But what I realized, I still needed to work on the trust that I had within myself. I still needed to make peace with myself. And so I started thinking about myself and the relationship that I have with myself as if I would think about a relationship with somebody else in my life. If someone who you love and care about broke your trust, let's just say, I hope this never happens to you, your partner who you love so much cheated on you. You found out and they came to you and they said, babe, I am so sorry. This will never, ever, 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 ever happen again. You're going to be weary. You're going to be questioning them. You're going to be doubting them. You're going to be like, well, you did it once. You might do it again. How would this person rebuild trust with you? They broke your trust 1 time. How many times have you broken your own trust? How many times have you made a commitment to yourself or a promise to yourself where you said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to follow through. This is going to be my day. This is going to be my week. This is going to be my month. This is going to be my year. How many of you said on January 1st that 2026 was going to be your year? Is 2026 your year? Don't worry. I'll wait. You have truly damaged the trust that you have within yourself. And so imagine your partner is wanting to rebuild trust with you. What do they need to do? They need to make a new commitment to you. They need to follow through. And they need to be consistent over a long period of time. Trust is not rebuilt overnight. Trust is built through continued action and proof and evidence that you can rely on that person. And if you have not been a woman that you can rely on in your life, then it makes sense that there is this disconnect in the relationship that you have with yourself. How happy are you in a relationship where there is no trust? How happy would you be in a relationship with a romantic partner where there is no trust? And now you're sitting here wondering, why am I not happy in my life? Well, it's because there is no trust in the relationship that you have with yourself. And the truth about yourself, you don't ever get to escape you. We get to escape other people. My partner pisses me off. I get to go in the bedroom and close the door. I get to leave and go for a drive in the car. I don't ever get to escape myself and what's happening here and here and here. You don't ever get to escape yourself. So you need to be very careful in making sure that you are nurturing the relationship that you have with yourself and spending the time to rebuild the trust that you have broken. And I'm going to teach you exactly how to do that through a very simple 3-step process that's going to help you rebuild the trust within yourself so that you can live the happy and fulfilling and peaceful life that you actually deserve. The first thing that we need to do is we need to be honest with ourselves about the pattern that we are living in and be truthful about the fact that we have not been trustworthy. We need to acknowledge the reality of who we have been. It would be like your partner trying to let you know that they would never cheat on you again, but they never acknowledged that they cheated on you in the first place. They were like gaslighting you and like, I never did that, but I'll never do it again. Well, how are you never going to do it again if you can't even acknowledge that you did it the first time? You need to be honest with yourself. Where in your life have you fallen short for you? And the truth is, I know that this is really hard to do. I know how painful it is to look in the mirror and think, oh my goodness, I have not been the woman that I wanted to be for myself. I have not been following through. I have not been executing. I have not been there. I have not been showing up. I have not been consistent. I have not kept the promises that I made to myself. That is painful. But we have to acknowledge the truth. Again, we couldn't rebuild trust with a partner who is gaslighting us and saying, I never cheated on you, even though you have the evidence. You have the evidence that you haven't been who you wanted to be for yourself. So stop lying about it. It's time for you to sit down and have an honest, loving, and compassionate conversation about the fact that you have not been there for you the way that you have wanted to be. And that's okay, because you get to rebuild trust from this moment forward, and you get to be exactly who you want to be from this day moving forward. But we have to first acknowledge the pattern that we are living in. So be honest with yourself. Where have you fallen short for yourself? Where are you breaking promises and commitments to yourself? Where are you saying, yeah, I'm going to do it, but then you just completely ghost yourself and don't follow through? That is where change needs to happen, but we can't create change if we don't first acknowledge where the change needs to be happening. The second thing that we need to do is we need to shrink the promise that we are making to ourselves. One of the reasons why you keep falling short is because you're setting expectations at the ceiling when your capacity is at the floor. You're trying to reach for the stars when you have not built yourself to a place where you're capable of reaching for the stars. And what happens when we set expectations for ourselves that we continue to fall short of is then we convince ourselves that we failed. And then we start asking questions like, well, why should I even bother? What's the point in trying anymore? I'm just not even going to do it. And there we are, self-abandoning again, because we've set an expectation that's just far too high. You have to be a woman who understands that you need to build your capacity to being consistent and executing in the way that you want to in a fairy tale land. This is not a fairy tale land. You don't wake up tomorrow and become a new person who has the capacity to be consistent with the 15 habits that you want to be consistent with. You have to build yourself to that place one baby step at a time. But the problem is, so many of us don't see baby steps as valuable. We think unless I'm taking huge strides forward and unless I'm getting there as fast as possible, well then, what's the point in trying? Because I need to hurry up and get there. I need to get there as quickly as possible. So we set these expectations at the ceiling, but we have no capacity to actually showing up and being consistent and executing on those promises to ourselves. And so therefore we constantly feel let down, frustrated, disappointed, and like we're not achieving the things that we want. But you get to decide the expectations that you set for yourself. And you get to decide that instead of setting an expectation that's this big, you're going to set one that's this big. You're going to shrink the size of the promise so that you can actually start rebuilding trust by creating evidence that you are a woman who can follow through and stay consistent. If you feel like you're taking on too much too soon, stop it. You set the goals, you set the intentions, you set the expectations, you decide how much you're taking on right now. So make sure that you're making promises that are actually possible for you to stay committed to keeping, okay? And then the third and probably most obvious piece of all of this is, babe, you have to keep the commitment. When you make a promise to yourself, you have to follow through. And the thing that I need you to hear right now is, I know it's easy to do things in life when it feels easy, when we feel motivated and inspired and excited and we feel driven and we feel pulled to showing up and we have the energy to do it. But that is not the reality of life 24/7. And if there's one thing that I've learned over the last 10 years in working on myself, it's that the moments that I don't want to follow through for myself are actually the moments where it matters the most. My trust within myself is built in the moments where my brain is overwhelmingly telling me, no, Jessica, you're tired, not today, you don't have the energy, don't do it, it's okay, it can wait until tomorrow. No. If I want to trust myself, if I want to be in a healthy relationship with myself, that means showing up and doing the things that I don't feel like doing. Because if you thought about it, I can guarantee you are doing things for other people on a daily basis that you don't feel like doing. How many times have you gone to work even though you didn't want to? A million. How many times have you worked out even though you didn't want to? How many times have you cooked a meal even though you didn't want to for your kids? But how many times have you meal prepped for yourself even though you didn't want to for you? It is so interesting in life how we are so willing to bend over backwards and do everything for other people. But when it comes to the promises and commitments that we make to ourselves, we're so quick to ghost them. We are so quick to abandon them. I need you to make a commitment that stops now. From this moment forward, you are going to be a priority in your life, and you are going to make promises that you are capable of keeping to yourself so that you can start building your bank of evidence that shows you, I am a woman who keeps the commitments that I make to myself. I follow through. I do what I said I was going to do. I can trust myself. Life gets a million times better when you trust yourself. Your confidence goes through the roof. Your belief in yourself through the roof. The knowing that you have your own back. Talked about in the last episode, fear, and how fear so often dictates the way that we show up in life. Fear stops dictating the way that we show up in life when we trust ourselves, because you know what happens? Even if worst case scenario plays out, we deeply, deeply believe, I got my own back. I am going to be okay. I know that I could lose everything today and rebuild my life because I trust myself. When you trust yourself, everything begins to change. You know without a shadow of a doubt how capable you are. And when you believe in yourself in that way, my girl, you become unstoppable. So keep the promises you make to yourself, and day by day, you will begin to rebuild the trust that you have lost. But it requires you to be honest with yourself. It requires you to make promises that are actually achievable. And it requires you to keep the commitments that you make to yourself, even when, especially when, it feels hard. I want you to keep in mind as you're moving forward this week that trust is not rebuilt by deciding to take on more. Trust is built by keeping the small promises and commitments that you make to yourself. So often we think, I just need to try harder and maybe I need to do more. No, you definitely don't need to do more. If you can't do what you're currently doing, girl, you do not need to be doing more. But our brains start to convince us that more is the answer, more is the solution, more is how we get there. More is not how we get there. Keeping the promises and commitments to ourselves is how we get there. So I want you to think about moving forward this week. What is one, not 5, not 10, not 15. What is one promise that you have been wanting to keep for yourself that you just keep abandoning over and over and over? Maybe it's the gym. Maybe it's journaling. Maybe it's posting on social media. Maybe it's recording a podcast episode. Maybe it's writing a couple pages of the book that you keep telling yourself that you're going to write. Doesn't matter what it is. What is the one promise? The thing that is keeping you up at night. Maybe it's doing your paperwork for your taxes. I don't know. One promise that you have made to yourself that you just keep ghosting. Can you make a commitment to taking action steps forward on that promise this week? I can guarantee you, if you do, you will begin to immediately feel better in your life. If you want the solution to your frustrations, to your disappointments, to your anxieties, to your worries, here it is. Keep the promises that you make to yourself, okay? I love you guys so very much. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Queen of Pep Talks podcast. If you enjoyed this video, it would mean so much if you took the time to like and comment below. Let me know if you had a takeaway. Let me know, what is the promise that you are keeping to yourself this week? I would love to hype you up in the comments. I would love to cheer you on. I would love to encourage you to continue showing up for yourself, to rebuild the trust that you have broken, because I promise you, life is better when you trust yourself, okay? I love you guys so much, and I'll chat with you next week on a brand new episode here on the Queen of Pep Talks podcast. See ya.